State Department announcing tonight the U.S. is ready to lift Trump-imposed sanctions on Iran. They're saying they're now ready to talk with Iran. What a difference, huh? State Department spokesman Ned Price saying the United States would accept an invitation from the European Union High Representative to attend a meeting of the P5+1 and Iran to discuss a diplomatic way forward on Iran's nuclear program. Fred Fleitz is a former chief of staff at the National Security Council and was a CIA analyst as well. Good person to talk to about this, Fred. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Rob, good to be here.
I imagine you have some thoughts about this idea, right?
Well, Rob, we've heard from the Biden administration they're going to do a careful review of this policy. And I might note that it took President Trump until May of 2018 to withdraw from this agreement. I mean, that was like 15 months. But we're only a month into the Biden administration. They've already announced that they want to get back into this deal. And they're trying to say there's going to be careful consideration. There's disagreement within the administration. Look, none of that is true. Joe Biden is determined to return to this deal as quickly as possible because it was an Obama achievement and because he wants to undo.
It's stupidity, kind of like the Paris Accord, which, we saw how that went. It's clear at this point Iran was not faithful to the deal when we were in it. We learned a lot from Israel about that a couple of years ago. Take a listen to this.
And we want to go beyond the 2015 deal, lengthen and strengthen it, and build on it with follow-on arrangements to address other areas of concern when it comes to our relationship with Iran.
So what's the point of going back into a bad agreement and doubling down on it? I mean, how do they think they're not going to lose here?
Well, the agreement was so bad that Iran could advance its nuclear program even while complying, because it could enrich uranium that allowed it to perfect its capability to make nuclear weapons fuel. But Israel stole documents from Iran in 2018 that proved beyond a doubt that there was substantial cheating. There was a covert nuclear weapons program while the agreement was in place. And what you just showed from the State Department press spokesman, it's absolute nonsense that they're going to negotiate a better deal or follow-on agreements. Iran has said absolutely no to that. It disagreed with doing those things in 2015. It's not going to do them now.
It's like letting somebody borrow your gun. He shoots you in the leg, and then you just let him borrow your gun again. I mean, I can't wrap my head around why, if they got caught the first time, do you ever trust them again? There's no way to make them not cheat. There's always a way to cheat. If you're going to cheat, you're going to cheat. And what is it with these people and these bad deals? We just had, like 2 weeks ago, John Kerry forced to admit that the Paris Climate Accord was totally useless and that it really did nothing. The standards of the accord did nothing, that it had to be re-upped and it had to be negotiated better. Why do they keep going back to these bad deals?
I believe that Barack Obama thought by engaging Iran, even with a bad deal, would somehow stabilize the United States by normalizing U.S. relations with Iran, and Iran would join the community of nations. That was a bad idea. It made no sense then. It makes less sense now. Rob, just that last week, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq attacked American soldiers. And we've seen other violations. We've seen Iran advancing its nuclear program, making uranium metal, stepping up its enrichment of uranium. But now Biden wants to set all that aside and re-enter the nuclear deal. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And you got Iran now. They're cozying up with Russia, right?
And China.
And China.
Any tough demands that we were to make to Iran, it's Iran's dream what the Biden people are setting up. We're going to get a nuclear deal that's far worse than what the Obama administration negotiated.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, these people, this is a professional, it's a big job they got. I feel like you could just throw a rock out the window and find somebody that could do a better deal than some of these people you got in the White House. It really is incredible. Fred Fleitz, thank you so much for the time. Great to talk with you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, since walking into the White House, Biden has reversed all of Donald Trump's abortion access restrictions. And a lot of the talk about the money, the tax dollars being spent on abortions, your tax dollars. Many Catholics in power have spoken out against this. What about Justice Amy Coney Barrett? Have you thought about that? All right, as President Biden approaches his 1-month mark in office, a battle between GOP lawmakers, the radical left, and Planned Parenthood intensifies. So how are Republicans fighting back on this? Host of the Eric Metaxas Show is here with us, author of Fish Out of Water, A Search for the Meaning of Life. Eric, good to talk with you again. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, in South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster signed a bill to ban most abortions. Take a listen to this.
We have a duty. It is a duty that we share as Americans and the South Carolinians to protect life above all else. That's what we're here for. Our battles are not over. Yet I believe that the dawn of victory is upon us.
So there was the moment. Planned Parenthood sued just hours later. Typically in the past, this hasn't worked. What's going to happen this time?
I don't know what's going to happen, but it's just fascinating that in 1973, I mean, that long ago, we had heavy-handed big government make a rule for every state in America, which was not in the Constitution, and you could have predicted, and people did predict, that we would be battling this ever since. The idea that we have a Supreme Court ruling, it should simply be overturned. It's just kind of a madness to me that we are still battling this. They thought that they could just solve it with this absurd ruling, Roe v. Wade, and we're battling it constantly. It never goes away because most Americans know that it's not okay to take a life, and we have to be honest and talk about it. And so I'm glad some of these governors and some of these states are taking action, and they're getting our attention so we can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is always going to be a hot topic because people are so polarized on it. Since Biden signed this memorandum that reversed Trump's abortion restrictions, a lot of Catholic bishops speaking out, GOP lawmakers like Senator Steve Daines of Montana fired back against this. Some people are speculating about Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Have you thought about that at all?
In what sense? I'm not sure what you mean.
I mean,
whether this is going to go to the Supreme Court, whether Roe v. Wade could be overturned because we have an actual majority of constitutionalists.
Yeah, I just wonder, I mean, would it be out of character for her to say something, to make a comment about this? I mean, you've got a situation where, there's people speculating she might take a side on this thing, and I didn't know if you'd thought about it.
I don't know that Supreme Court justices typically do that. I would be rather surprised if she did, especially since she's the newest justice. I just don't think that would be wise. And whenever we have had justices behave in political ways, I mean, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg performed a same-sex wedding ceremony.
Welcome back. Joe Biden is ready to spend billions on COVID vaccinations for other countries. Come on, you're not that surprised. Former U.S. Ambassador to Germany and Acting Director of National Intelligence, Rick Grenell, joins us to talk about that and a lot of other fun topics of the day. Rick, good to see you again.
Nice to be here. Thanks, Rob.
Of course, yeah. So tomorrow, President Biden will announce the U.S. is going to contribute $4 billion to help pay for vaccines abroad in conjunction with the World Health Organization, which we're back with as well. I guess this is globalism at its best, huh?
Look, one thing that I learned about the UN, being there for 8 years, is that there aren't programs at the UN that work unless there's U.S. leadership. And the idea that we're going to now just dump a bunch of money into WHO and expect the reform to happen simply because we write the check is really ridiculous. It takes years to reform these programs, and unless there is an American leadership strategy, these programs just don't work, and that's just the simple fact. So I think that this is another example of Joe Biden wanting consensus with the world, wanting 193 countries at the UN to approve him. Yeah. And this means that America is not first. Americans and American taxpayers are not first.
It's amazing. We just had that whole thing where everybody got to see the nuts and bolts of that bill and all the money that goes out to other countries. And it made so many people upset to see that. When we're talking about getting a $600 check from the government, everybody got so upset. And now we just send $4 billion out. We send billions of dollars to other countries. Who's paying for our vaccines? Anybody sending money to us for our vaccines?
Yeah, it's such a great point because what you're really talking about is prioritizing spending. And when we have some extra money and when we get to that point where there is a tragedy around the world, the Americans are actually the first to give. It's not like we're stingy. This whole idea, though, that we have to fund all of the other programs just to kickstart them. I think the other countries love it.
Yeah.
They love coming to these diplomatic meetings and asking for things because usually it's the Democratic president that just says yes and starts spending the money. It's the Republicans that try to use it as leverage. Donald Trump really tried to use our position, our money, all of the things that we have at our disposal to benefit the American people and use it as leverage. And now we've seen this nice word of consensus that Joe Biden keeps throwing around. And it just means that the other countries get to veto our policy and they get to determine what we do.
It's amazing. We're 27 trillion in the hole and we're just sending billions of dollars out to other countries. It really is amazing. In your state, California, it looks like the Democrats are ready to look hard at the signatures on Governor Newsom's recall petition. It looks like they want to look really hard. The state senator there, Stephen Glasser, quoted in Politico today, "The message must be about why even unhappy Californians should not sign these poisonous petitions," he said in an interview. "Our collective action should be all about reducing signatures that would create this political chaos." What exactly is he talking about, and why do they suddenly care so much about voter signatures?
Yeah, he said the quiet part out loud, right?
Yeah,
he
right.
said we're going to reduce the signatures. Look, there's this process. You have to have 1.5 million signatures to recall Gavin Newsom by March 17th. But that means 1.5 million verified signatures. And who does the verification? The state of California, which is completely controlled by one party, the Democrats. They're going to farm this out to counties, and counties are going to send back the information that they have about residency and signature requirements. This is a recipe for disaster. And what this state senator said is our whole strategy on the Democratic side is to reduce the number of signatures. Now, I don't know how you reduce signatures unless you throw out people's votes.
Yeah.
And so we've got a real problem here because the national media keep thinking that Gavin Newsom is going to be recalled because we have enough signatures, but we're not there yet. We've got to verify these signatures. And so the strategy right now is for us to get way more than what is needed so that as they throw out signatures, we have enough to meet that 1.5 million threshold. So we're in a crisis right now because if we want to recall Gavin Newsom, which most people in California really do, then we've got to get these signatures above and beyond the games that the Democrats are going to play.
Yeah, it's just funny to see the Democrats loving the voter suppression now. It is the irony of that is not lost on
You've
everybody.
never seen voter verification and signature verification like what's going on in 2021 in California.
Oh yeah, they're all about it. Oh, so I want to ask you. Everybody's been hearing these rumors. Maybe you're going to run for governor. Have you thought any more about that?
Look, I'm trying not to be cute with this answer, but we really don't have the signatures yet.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about what they're going to do if we get the signatures, and I got to tell you that the grassroots in California, they really are the grassroots activists. They're annoyed. They're annoyed that people are all of a sudden personally jumping in and doing something before we do the hard work. Right now, we are doing the hard work of getting verified signatures and getting this qualified. We got to get rid of this governor, and that's the first step.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, I just want to ask you, the Democrats introducing this No Glory for Hate Act. It says you can't, quote, create or display any symbol, monument, or statue commemorating any former president that has been twice impeached by the House of Representatives. Obviously, there's one intention to this. It says that Trump couldn't be buried at Arlington National Cemetery as well. How petty is this?
I mean, I actually think it's beyond petty. I think it's a little scary because what they're trying to do is really silence people. This is using your political power to really punish the opposition, punish your enemies. And, I worked at the State Department for 11 years, and I have to tell you that when we would see this in another country, we would call it out and say, grow up, don't act like this. This is what dictatorships do. We need some adults in Washington, and I know that sounds like we're all gonna roll our eyes, but we need some adults in Washington to stand up on the Democratic side and say, stop this. This is ridiculous. Let's have a democracy. Let's have a debate about issues, but stop punishing your opponents when you have the political leverage.
It's a good point. It does make sense. Rick Grenell, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Good to see you as always.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. Coming up, breaking news tonight, Secretary of State Tony Blinken ready to re-engage with Iran. It's a big story. Just as the Iran. It is strange, right, that it was only 5 days ago or so, when we were in the middle of impeachment, the president was acquitted, of course. The Trump attorneys won that case. You would not know that by looking at all the glowing profiles of the House managers. Take a look at this stuff. Ooh, Jamie Raskin won the impeachment trial before it began. Dem buzz about breakout stars of Trump impeachment. The beauty of Jamie Raskin's America on display at Trump's impeachment trial. Again, those were all the prosecutors. Meanwhile, what did the defense side get? Vandalism. One of the lead attorneys had this painted on his driveway. Can you believe that? Traitor. How about this from the Epoch Times? Take a look, please. Trump impeachment attorney canceled by law school and civil rights law group. They're talking about our next guest, David Schoen, who was fantastic during the impeachment. He was on the floor of the United States Senate, battling it out, doing the right thing, in my opinion, and he won that case. David Schoen, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor.
You bet. Thank you, sir. Look, this should be the fifth victory lap, in my opinion, for you. It's been 5 days, whatever it's been. You should be on the ultimate professional high. It looks like the opposite is happening to you. Can you tell us about the dust up with the law school, please?
Well, I had hoped to teach a law school course in the fall. I've been in talks with the law school about teaching a civil rights course. I've got 36 years of experience as a civil rights lawyer, some major cases. I love being around the students. When this came up, I contacted the school to ask whether this would be an impediment. And I was told that, yes, it would be, that some faculty and students would feel uncomfortable to have me on campus if I were getting involved in this case. I thought that was a sad commentary, quite frankly, but I also wouldn't want students to be uncomfortable. What's changed is the concept of liberalism. You know, liberalism used to favor the marketplace of ideas. They would want to hear all sides of a story. Everyone has something to bring to the table. Not anymore. This cancel culture has taken on the face. It's become more radicalism than liberalism, quite frankly. And go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry this is happening. And that word, uncomfortable. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. It's like a catch-all. And you can try to make anything happen. I want to see some footage of you, by the way, first, if you don't mind. Roll it of David on the floor of the United States Senate. You were powerful, you were intelligent, you were articulate and brave. And again, the accolades, let me ask you this. Are you seeing increased business at least? Because the whole world saw, even the people on the other side, that you're a great lawyer. So is there any plus side to this?
I'll tell you what the plus side is. It's not about me. It's about Donald Trump, and it's about the integrity of the institution of the presidency. This political weaponization of impeachment struck at the heart of the institution of the presidency, put it at risk, and may have put it at risk in the future. But what I think you're going to see now is a backlash. I think that Donald Trump has gained momentum from the win here. And let's face it, let's look at who he is. They knew who he was when he elected him, and he wasn't one of them. But look at what he did in office. He's the first so-called politician who kept his word. He made promises. He made NATO pay. He brought this First Step Act that saved lives. He moved the Jerusalem embassy, taking principle over political expediency. Unprecedented moves in the Middle East, and he put America first. That's what I think is going to come out now. They're going to empower him because everyone saw that the attack was unfair in this impeachment process.
David, I like what you're saying. And they're trying, but how is he going to overcome this? Okay, you mentioned his political deliverables, what he did and what he can do. He's not on Twitter. They're trying to cancel him. It doesn't look like it's working, though. You point out that he's got momentum, it seems like. What's next? How's this going to play out?
Well, I don't know, but I'll remind you of this. As you well know, he overcame 4 years of major mainstream media attacking him and not telling his story the entire time. And he still accomplished all of these things. And more than that, even maybe, he overcame this Mueller commission, which was such a blemish on our history, the very idea of its nature. But then again, this is where I say they're tone deaf, to appoint a committee headed by a lawyer who was a partner in the firm that represented Hillary Clinton, to put an Andrew Weissman as a second in command running the thing. In my view, the most ethically bankrupt prosecutor I've ever come across. Hillary Clinton's lawyer, Jeannie Rhee, in her email scandal, was on that committee. The American public demands fairness, and they saw no fairness there. They saw, again, the weaponization that cost us millions of dollars and tried to derail the presidency. There's going to be backlash.
I want there to be appropriate backlash, nonviolent backlash. We all do.
Of course.
At the same time, I feel like people are running scared a little bit. You know, they're like keeping their heads down. I'll tell you, I was in Florida not too long ago. There were Trump flags as far as the eye could see before January 6th. I didn't see anything.
I don't want to overstate the case, but I will tell you this. After I finished that video presentation at the impeachment so-called trial, which was nothing that resembled a trial, the internet lit up. I've heard from so many people who were empowered by that. Senators came up afterwards. Finally, someone struck back. We've been taking this beating and nobody's speaking out. Sure, shows like yours and John Hannity and others show some of these videos, but exposing the double standard, the hypocrisy, meant a great deal to the American people. I'm hearing from people all over the world who don't know me, and I'm not important to that equation, but they're saying how they really appreciated someone speaking up in the name of Donald Trump for them.
So let me just ask you, because I know you're a brilliant attorney. We all saw that. Now you're talking a bit more about politics, and I like that too. What's next for you? I mean, look, you know the battle we're in the middle of. What's next for you? I mean, look, apparently you don't have much of a future as a law school professor. You should, but so what are you going to do?
I'm a small town lawyer, you know, in Montgomery, Alabama. That's what I right now anticipate returning to. And I like to use my law practice to help people. I want to help people do better in life. That's what I've done for 36 years. And that's what I hope to continue being able to do.
All right. Well, I hope you keep in touch with the president, your former client, because I think you guys could work very well together. All right. You guys should stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
You bet. David Schoen, thank you. Best of luck. The Schoen Law Firm in Montgomery. And you also have an office in Atlanta, correct?
I don't practice in Atlanta, but I work in New York and Montgomery and different places around the country. As I say, you know, you have to be open to all kinds of ideas. And what I try to do is advance the cause of people who want to get ahead and fulfill the American dream. And that's what I think Donald Trump stood for so many of those people.
Beautiful. David Schoen. Hey, please drop by the next time you're in New York. Thank you very much, David Schoen. Great work, by the way, again last week. Thank you, sir. We'll be right back. Sir. You bet.
But who cares? 33, 28, died in a hospital, died in a nursing home. They died.
Who cares, he said. Oh, boy, Governor Cuomo is in big trouble. Looks like an FBI investigation into numerous fiascos that are happening inside his administration. Let's take a look at some of the headlines, please. Number one, Democrats slam lying Andrew Cuomo over COVID-19 nursing home scandal. Seems they sent thousands and thousands and thousands of COVID-positive patients from hospitals into nursing homes. That was a bad move. Anybody can tell you that. Next headline, please. Cuomo faces revolt as legislators move to strip him of pandemic powers. Joining me right now is someone a lot of folks wish were the governor instead. Rob Astorino, former Westchester County executive, former Republican candidate for governor of New York. Rob, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
I'm good, Greg. How are you doing?
Terrific. State of New York, though, is in trouble, and so is Governor Cuomo. Does any of this surprise you?
None at all. I was talking about it in 2014 when I ran against him. He is not only a bully, but I firmly believe he is the least principled politician in the world. You know, I respect Bernie Sanders and AOC, as crazy as that sounds. I don't believe in anything they believe in, but they're true believers in their cause. There is not one hill that Andrew Cuomo would die on. He literally believes in nothing other than himself. And so you're seeing this in New York. You're seeing people leave. You're seeing businesses flee. You're seeing the death spiral of New York City and New York State, and with good reason, because there's nothing guiding him towards making the state better, and he has completely got himself in hot water now, and he deserves it. And it's fun to watch the left go after him, because what Assemblyman Kim went through, I totally believe that call happened because it happened to me in 2012.
Assemblyman Kim, Democrat from Queens. Let's go ahead and put up a portion of the New York Post. This is a hardworking lawmaker, well-liked, and Governor Cuomo called him up and reportedly threatened him. Kim said Cuomo warned him, "You have not seen my wrath. I have been biting my tongue for months. I can tell the whole world what a bad person you are, and you will be finished. You will be destroyed." I mean, it rings true, doesn't it?
I like your Queen's accent there, Greg. It does ring true. And I look, in 2012, when I was county executive in Westchester, The governor had proposed, which I supported, the rebuilding or a new Tappan Zee Bridge. And in order to get federal help, assistance for bonding, he needed a unanimous approval from all the county executives in the region, the city of New York mayor, and some state officials. It's called New York Metropolitan Transportation Council. And I said that I was going to vote against it and veto the entire bridge unless he kept his promise to have a mass transit component or designed component for that new bridge. Well, he went ballistic. I was in New York City in the car, and all of a sudden my phone rings, and it was the governor's office, and they said the governor would like to speak to you. I said, okay. So I get on the phone, and, he starts off nice. Rob, you can get a lot of credit for this bridge. We can work together, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden the transition started, and he started yelling and cursing and said, I will ruin you. I will, end all your hopes for anything, blah, 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 going on and on and on. So when he was done, I said to him, are you finished? And then I used, I'll just say it's the initials of the school that I went to and he went to, Fordham University. And I basically told him, go to hell. That's no way to talk to me or anybody. I'm not going to be intimidated. And he has done this to everybody who disagrees with him because it's just personal. He's like a scorpion. Unless he's biting somebody, he's not happy. But it's all coming to fruition now. He's getting what he deserves, quite frankly.
So, Democrats are turning on it. You're a Republican, you ran against him, but now former Democratic allies are saying, enough with this guy. And by the way, let's put that New York Times headline up one more time, seeking to potentially strip him of certain powers. Revolt as legislators move to strip him of pandemic powers. These are, I guess, the opening and closing authority that he was granted. How serious is this? What happens next?
Should have been done months and months ago. I mean, look, in the beginning of the pandemic last March and April, I can see giving him extraordinary powers to make moves. Nobody knew what was going on. But at some point, the legislature has to come back in and assume its rightful role. He literally, he abused under the auspices of COVID. It gave him the power to literally suspend laws, make laws unilaterally, change laws. And he did so last year in the elections. He literally changed what the state constitution says on how somebody can apply for and vote by mail. Literally changed it. No signature required, done by a portal online. And as you can imagine, the system collapsed. It wasn't meant for that. And all of them came in basically for the Democrats. So he literally got away with a lot of different things. They should rescind his power. It should not. We're not in an emergency situation anymore. The restaurants should be open. Schools should be open. We're going through now a rollout of a vaccine that, quite frankly, he completely botched. Yeah. So things have changed. The legislature should have taken that power back, and they need to do it now, but they should have done it last summer.
Let's take another look at Governor Cuomo, if we can, please. Just a few, months ago, they were talking about this guy replacing Joe Biden on the Democrat ticket. Remember that talk? That's done. That's gone. One huge blunder, and I'm surprised nobody tried to talk him out of it, was to write a book about how well he was handling the pandemic in the middle of the pandemic. Talk about arrogance, hubris. He's got nobody strong enough, I think, to tell him no or to tell him, you know what, you're crazy, knock it off.
Well, they're all afraid of him. I had Democrats come up to me when I ran against him, and they're like looking both ways, like, I'm voting for you, just so you know. I'm talking about Democratic elected officials and even donors of his. He's a miserable human being. I hate to talk like this about somebody, and I'm not kicking him when he's down because I've been kicking him since 2014 because I know the real guy. But I think New Yorkers are just starting to see not just the ineptness of him governing, but also his anger and just his obnoxious behavior. Look, he's had sexual misconduct thrown at him and his office about how he's treated women. That was completely glossed over by the press.
Sexual harassment, right? About that alleged sexual harassment, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I know. He's gotten a free pass, free ride from much of the media for a long time. I think it's over, forever.
Yeah. As long as he talks about his mama's meatballs with his brother on CNN, the whole world is good.
Oh, one thing before we go. Yeah, wasn't that crazy? Kidding around, and again, it was all fun. And somebody told me once that, He did a horrible job, but he looked good while he was doing it. Again, because he was fit or something like that. All right, we don't have that video. We're going to run it. We got to go. Rob, great to have you. Rob Astorino, who knows? Maybe a future governor of New York. This guy's looking really vulnerable. It could work out this time. Rob, take care. To be continued.
Thanks, Greg.
You bet.
All right, take care.
We'll be right back. Hope you were watching the show last night. A certain former president called us, and we spoke to him for about 22 and a half minutes. A more or less exclusive interview with President Trump. We are so grateful that he shared his time and also his thoughts on all kinds of things. We talked about Rush Limbaugh, of course. His good friend died yesterday at the age of 70. But we also talked about Mitch McConnell, China, weak Republicans, Joe Biden, and will President Trump run for president in 2024? He did not rule it out. Did not rule it out. It was good to talk to him, though. I mean, I miss a guy who just says what everybody is thinking. You know, Joe Biden did make a rare network appearance on television earlier this week. I asked the president if he watched it. He definitely saw clips. Let's start with one of the clips that the president saw of President Biden. This is President Biden from CNN earlier this week.
When you and I talked last, we talked about it's one thing to have the vaccine, which we didn't have when we came into office, but a vaccinator.
Didn't have a vaccine when he came into office? That's not true. And it's one of the first things we talked about with President Trump.
Well, I saw that he said that there was no vaccine when he came into office, and yet he got a shot before he came into office. And it was already in early November that we announced it, but we actually had it substantially before that. And we were giving millions of shots and millions of doses. So he was either not telling the truth or he's mentally gone, one or the other.
Mentally gone. I miss President Trump. It was good to hear from him. By the way, it was basically the first interview he did since leaving the White House, where he talked about other subjects. And, we talked about Rush. He talked about Rush with some of the networks, but he really expounded on a lot of things. We are very grateful. More on President Trump in just a little bit. We need him in a lot of different ways. Got to talk about Senator Ted Cruz. I am a big fan, seriously. This man's intellect, his eloquence, totally amazing. But he made a mistake, and sometimes when you're really, really smart, you do eccentric things, and Anyway, he flew to Cancun in the middle of that horrible storm they're having, or the aftermath in Texas, millions of people without power, without heat, and he went to Cancun. Somebody saw it, took a picture, and yeah, this does not look good. The senator should know that optics are a big part of being a senator, how things look. You don't have any operational real control or authority right now, but doesn't stop other politicians from trying to look like they're in charge in the middle of a crisis. Just take a look at, as President Trump called him, fake tears Chuck. Chuck Schumer. You know what? I'll say this about Senator Schumer. He works hard, or he works hard at making it look like he works hard. Look at that podium.